Hey there, night owl. Welcome to Digital Kathagalu, the YouTube channel where Indian mythology meets midnight snacks and sleep stories are served with a spoonful of sarcasm. Tonight's tale is part ghost story, part family drama, and entirely Himalayan. We're talking misty hills, pine forests, and a tiny village so remote, even Swiggy refuses delivery. It's a story about a tough mother, her mysteriously missing sons, and a divine loophole that makes one very unusual dinner possible. But before we dive headfirst into the ghosts, guilt, and garam rotis portion, let's get you settled. Take a deep breath in, now breathe out. Shake out your shoulders. Wiggle your toes. Pretend you're a stressed pigeon in yoga class. Imagine you're wrapped in a soft blanket made of nostalgia, napping in a cabin somewhere above Nainital. There's a fire crackling in the corner. Somewhere in the distance, a fox coughs dramatically, probably for attention. And now, with your mind relaxed and your phone on Do Not Disturb, seriously, your toxic ex and 17 unread group chats can wait. It's time for the tale of Maati Devi and her slightly dead, mostly hungry sons. Let's begin. Welcome to Ghanghari. It's a village so hidden, even government census officials gave up trying. Here, the houses cling to cliffs like gossip, clings to WhatsApp forwards, and the wind is either whispering secrets or just showing off. In the middle of this quaint chaos lived Maati Devi, a widow with more grit than the village roads. She wasn't tall, she wasn't loud, but her stare could silence barking dogs and bend rain clouds to her will. A woman of few words and many mutterings. Her 3 sons, Deepu, Bittu, and Chintu, were not exactly village icons. Think of them as well-meaning, but spectacularly lazy. If effort were a profession, they'd be unemployed. One summer morning, with the enthusiasm of someone applying for a government job 5 years late, the boys announced, "Ma, we're going to the plains, big plans, gonna earn some money, maybe open a dhaba or a juice stall. We'll be back before Diwali." They packed their plastic suitcases, borrowed sweaters that weren't theirs, and vanished down the winding road like a melodramatic soap opera exit. And then, silence. No letters, no calls, not even one passive-aggressive voice note. Diwali came, crackers burst, sweets were shared. But Maati Devi waited. One Diwali became 2, then 3. Her neighbors began whispering as neighbors do. "Maybe they settled," said one. "Maybe they eloped," said another. "Maybe they joined a dance troupe," said no one. But it would have been fun. Maati Devi didn't speak much. But every evening, she'd stare at the horizon with the quiet rage of a mom whose Wi-Fi password had been shared without her consent. And so, she became a legend. The lady who waits. The watcher of roads. The original Ma from missingboys.com. By the second year of their absence, Maati Devi had crossed all the classic stages of grief. Sadness, bargaining, mild arson in her mind, and reached the final stage. Righteous Indian mother anger. She tried everything. She bribed temple priests with an extra laddu. She did full moon fasts while shouting Sanskrit she barely understood. She even lit 21 diyas in the shape of her son's initials. Bittu's was tricky, but nothing worked. So on one very dramatic monsoon night, you know the kind where clouds audition for the role of evil background sound in horror film, Maati Devi reached her limit. She stomped to the edge of the cliff near the temple, threw her shawl over her shoulder like a Bollywood matriarch, raised her hands and bellowed into the heavens. Yamraj, you've got 5 minutes to send my boys back, or I'll start a bhajan group with tone-deaf aunties outside your gates. Lightning cracked. Somewhere, a goat fainted, and deep in the clouds, something or someone took notice. You see, in Hindu mythology, there's one night when the realms of the living and dead briefly overlap. That sacred, slightly chaotic night called Kartik Purnima, when spirits can pass through like VIP guests at a divine party. Maati Devi didn't know it then, but her motherly scream had just RSVP'd 3 souls for a family reunion no one saw coming. Kartik Purnima arrived like a silent drum roll. The stars were unnaturally bright, like they'd been polished by cosmic interns. The pine trees stood still. Even the village dogs, known for 24/7 barking, were unusually contemplative. Maati Devi sat in her kitchen. She'd cooked more than usual, perhaps out of habit or hope. Then the door creaked. Not the dramatic horror movie kind, more like the sheepish, we weren't supposed to be here kind. And in walked her sons, Deepu, Bittu, Chintu. Same tired faces, same crooked smiles, but their eyes shimmered with something unearthly. Not spooky, just elsewhere. They wore white clothes and garlands of Brahmakamal, flowers that don't grow in the mortal realm unless you've taken a very long, very spiritual detour. Ma, Deepu said softly. Your voice woke the hills. Even the ghosts in Yamaluk told us to go visit. We only get one night, Bittu added. So we came for dinner. Hope there's halwa. Maati Devi didn't blink. She didn't question the glowing aura or the lack of mobile signal. She simply picked up the ladle and said, Sit, I've made Karela too. You don't escape that even in death. Because when you're an Indian mother, your kids can cross realms, but not cross out from eating greens. That night, Maati Devi cooked like her stove had divine backing. There was steaming aloo-tamatar, spiced just right. Rice so fluffy, it made clouds jealous. And halwa so rich, it could have paid off your EMIs. Her sons sat on the floor, legs folded like obedient schoolboys. Except, they were slightly dead. They chatted as if no time had passed. Ma, there's no chai in Yamaluk, Bittu whined. They serve some herbal nonsense for soul detox, Deepu added. Also, no cricket, Chintu mumbled. Just eternal yoga sessions. They laughed. She smiled. And not once did she ask the questions clawing at her heart. Why didn't you come sooner? Why did you leave like that? Why now? Because sometimes love means ignoring the logistics of death and just focusing on second helpings. When they finished, she tucked them into their old bedding. Lumpy mattresses with the same smell of dust, soap, and teenage laziness. She sang lullabies she hadn't sung in years. And for the first time in a long time, Maati Devi slept without staring at the door. But dawn is rude like that. The morning sun barged in, unapologetic. Birds chirped too loudly. Life resumed its regular programming. And the beds? Empty. Not a fold out of place, not a slipper misplaced. Only the faint scent of Brahma Kamal, now wilted petals on the floor. She didn't scream. She just made chai, then walked to the sadhu who lived near the banyan tree, a man who once claimed he could smell ghosts. He listened carefully, sipped his chai, which always had 5 spoons of sugar, and nodded. They got a night pass, divine permit, once every few years. Yamraj must have owed you a favor. Think of it like ghostly Airbnb. No drama, no rituals, just truth served straight, like overboiled chai. And from that day on, Maati Devi didn't wait. She lived, cooked, occasionally smiled. But every Kartik Purnima, she lit an extra diya. Not because she expected them, but because sometimes the dead get homesick too. And sometimes guilt-tripped sons, even in the afterlife, remember to come home for dinner. So, next time the lights flicker or you hear a knock at midnight, relax. It's probably not a ghost. It's probably your mom. Real, spectral, or emotional. Checking if you've eaten, taken your meds, and folded your laundry. You've been listening to Digital Kathagalu, where lo-fi meets lo-kahani, and every spirit has a story, even if it involves Karela. Now close your eyes. Dream of warm rotis, soft hills, and mildly sarcastic mothers yelling at deities. Sleep well, dream weird. And remember, if your mom ever yells at the sky, you better answer, even if you're in outer space.